contract timeline and a shock exit. Remco Evenepoel signed with Soudal Quickstep many years ago now, around 2018 to 2019. His contract slated to run through to the end of 2026, yet on August 5th, 2025, both sides agreed to end it a full year early, enabling his move to Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe for 2026. Quote, representatives of Remco informed the team's management that he did not wish to discuss an extension. Quote, after consultation, the teams decided that it's in the best interest to agree that Remco can move at the end of the current 2025 season. Remco Evenepoel's camp reportedly paid roughly €5 million, while Red Bull added another €2 million in compensation. A steep break clause for a sport where contract negotiation drama usually stays behind closed doors. Soudal Quickstep CEO Jürgen Fohr had earlier publicly denied transfer rumours, insisting that Evenepoel would remain into the end of his contract, though he acknowledged interest from Red Bull and Ineos. Meanwhile, legendary Patrick Lefebvre hinted at potential legal action, noting the complexity of breaking such a high-value deal. Yet, by the press release, the abrupt termination felt almost orchestrated, a contract dissolved by mutual agreement, but only after months of behind-the-scenes tension. Was the Tour de France 2025 the breaking point? The turning point may well have been the 2025 Tour. After impressive pre-Tour form, including a victory in the Ardennes and a fine showing in the Critérium de Dauphiné, Evenepoel took yellow in the Stage 5 time trials in Caen, sitting second overall behind Tadej Pogačar. But once the high mountains hit, things fell apart. On Stage 14, featuring the legendary Pyrenean cols like Tourmalet and Paris-Sourde, Evenepoel began to drop off the pace dramatically and abandoned while still third overall. His team stated that it was to, quote, preserve the rest of his season. Post-abandon, Evenepoel described it as the hardest decision I've ever made in a long time. He had battled both a lingering shoulder injury and sinusitis, which doctors later confirmed had significantly compromised his condition. Quote, I didn't have the best preparation, but I did everything I could. After stage 12, he said, it's not that I raced smart, it was just the only way to race today. I fought with the Paris podium in mind. Meanwhile, Reddit commentary captured a blunt sentiment. A Redditor said, he was mortified. He couldn't come back from that rabbit hole. He was angry probably, more at himself and also embarrassed. In short, a tour gone wrong, physical collapse, emotional backlash, and perhaps the moment he lost faith in Quickstep's support system. Internal friction with management. While Remco pushed for Grand Tour glory, Soudal Quickstep remained a team whose strengths lay in classics and sprint stages. Adapting to GC ambitions was never terrain for them. Quickstep restructured their infrastructure over years to accommodate just him, but they still struggled to consistently deliver across high mountains under new pressure. Patrick Lefebvre, Soudal's outspoken boss, has repeatedly treated Evenepoel's long-rumoured departures, first to Ineos, then to UAE, as irritation and distraction. In one column he warned, today it's Red Bull, tomorrow it'll be UAE, right? Lefebvre's dismissive style may have alienated a rider committed to modern professional branding and athlete autonomy. Yeah, it wasn't good. That mismatch may have been the real fracture point. When negotiations began in earnest, Lefebvre was suddenly thrust into a legal spotlight. He commented in Het Nieuwsblad that dispute might escalate or, quote, perhaps be a storm in a teacup, underlining contract complexity and friction deep enough to consider legal escalation. management and structure collapse. Even before Tour fallout, Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe had begun restructuring its personnel partly to gear up for Remco's arrival. Staff moves included appointed Sven van Hout in a leadership role and reports to Soudal staff such as mechanic or sportif director joining Red Bull as part of a broader poaching strategy. This signals Red Bull's strategic advantage. They weren't just offering a jersey, they're recruiting people and a vision that Remco likely felt Soudal couldn't match. The emotional fallout. Evenepoel's tour collapse wasn't only physical, it was deeply emotional. The Olympic TT gold medalist struggled in the uphill TT, performance he later said, quote, got in his head. He had been trying to ride the Tour with hidden injuries, pushing through yet falling short of his own standards. Riding under that weight, he seemed to lose faith in Soudal's ability to even support him fully, emotionally and professionally. Red Bull likely offered the reset, more control, media training, brand alignment, and psychological distance from Lefevere's shadow. How the exit was handled adds fuel to the fire. When the transfer was announced, it felt abrupt. Soudal issued one short statement, Red Bull released another. No joint farewell, no interview of Remco thanking Quick-Step for developmental years. Belgian media called it, quote, almost a hostile takeover, underlining how it felt more like a coup than a parting of friends. There was neither grace nor sentimentality, just because, well, business was done, bags were packed, and in a sport where rider loyalty is often sentimental, that silence spoke volumes. Where do we go from here? For Quick-Step, they need to rebuild an identity post-Evenepoel. Signings like Jasper Stuyven and things like that aim at classics, signalling a shift back to their old strengths. Lefevere's era may be at a crosswinds, adapt or fade. For Evenepoel, Red Bull represents a platform to shape his brand and exert more control. He resumes training just 16 days post-Tour de France, signalling that he's ready to go, and possibly leadership at the 2025 World Championships is definitely an option. His ambitions to win and to, quote, shape cycling, as Red Bull team manager Ralph Denk said. For the fans, a star rider has walked away from a guaranteed contract early. The Tour de France collapsed, and it revealed cracks, not just in his body, but in his team's faith. The clash with Lefevere's old-school approach shows that this just was never going to work, and he even ended the contract an entire year early as a result. It's a mixture of him being annoyed with the team and probably disappointed with how the Tour de France went based on the support that he was getting from Soudal. These are my opinions, I could be wrong, but based on my own research, I've kind of come to this conclusion. Thanks for watching today's video. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel to stay up to date with all of the latest cycling news, cycling drama and cycling results. Leave a like on today's video for good luck, and as always, feel free to comment down below your own opinions and thoughts in the comment section below this video.